Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Real View podcast. I am your host, Allison Wiley. Joining me today, our special guest is Cristin Culver. She is a strategic communications consultant and advisor based in Austin, Texas, specializing in real estate and fintech. With experiences at Open Door, Truila, and others, she helps founders and companies define their narratives and amplify their presence. She excels at integrating communications into business strategy to drive visibility, today's keyword, trust, and growth. She also founded her own business, Common Thread Communications, and is the principal there. Cristin, welcome onto the show. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks for having me, Allison. Awesome to be here.
Yes, and as I teased just a minute ago, we're going to talk about visibility, about what it means in today's real estate industry. We are going to go over some examples of how to do it well, of how to do it not so well, and how it is such a key part of what you should be doing every day to grow your business. But before we get started into that, I would like to know a little bit more about you, Cristin. Could you tell us about you and how you got started in the real estate industry?
Sure. I mean, I'll go back all the way to my origin story because you hit on like places I worked and things like that, which is important. But I think my love affair for real estate and the reason that I've kind of ended up doing this for 20 years or being in this category is like it started just by like I used to take walks and ride bikes with my mom, and we'd go through the neighborhoods near our house, and we would always be like, oh, we love that house, or we just kind of like do the daydreaming that you do when you look at, beautiful homes that don't belong to you. So that was kind of like what put a bit of passion for real estate in my heart. And then as I, grew up and had a chance to kind of go category specific, it was a pull for me because I'd always kind of had a thing for real estate. So yes, I'm now about 20 years into doing PR and communications almost exclusively for real estate. I've worked for a lot of brands that I'm sure Ohio Realtors either know and love or know and hate. Trulia, Open Door, Notarize, DB Homes. But yeah, and my role has always been like, let's story tell for these brands to make sure that people, especially customers, folks who are thinking about like how they want to run their real estate process, have information to either like make decisions to do something new, to stick with what they know, to hire a great real estate agent, to integrate tech into a new way that they may not have considered before. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And no, it's you have a really unique perspective on the industry, and especially from a PR side. I think that is so important to what we do as realtors, to what our members are out there doing every day. You got to have a strong reputation. You got to be painting yourself in the best light. And you're going to go over with us some ways to do that, some ways to ensure, we are staying top of mind to people, especially in today's world where time is so hard to come by and everyone seems to be occupied at all times. But before we get started in that, I want to hear a little bit more about too your business. So you founded Common Thread Communications. Talk to us about that, what that's been like, and a little bit about what you do there.
Sure. Yeah. I run a solo consultancy. Sometimes I pull in some other really smart folks to work with me, but I help companies in the same way that I used to do when I worked internally at a company, but now I work across a whole suite of clients. Most of them are in the real estate space, and similar things, storytelling and helping them kind of get their narrative out there. It's been very fun to do it as kind of somebody on the outside. Also, to see the changes over the 20 years I've been doing this. Things used to be a lot different, and now we have different tools, things are moving faster, which I think is an advantage. I mean, real estate agents these days like really have a lot of things literally at their fingertips to be great at this. You don't have to be an expert like me. You don't have to have 20 years of experience. You can be an incredible storyteller on your own, which is neat. I also have lots of friends who are real estate agents. I live in Austin, and it's been fun to kind of like coach them on what visibility means for being kind of an individual agent, knowing what I know and kind of seeing what I see, what works, what doesn't work. kind of seeing the folks that are doing it well and then like sharing examples with folks. And I know we'll talk through that on this pod.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like you mentioned, you're the perfect person to come on to talk about this. You kind of have seen it all, have a lot of great advice and knowledge, to share with us today. So that's why I'm really excited that you're going to be able to join us and that we're going to dive into this world of visibility. I think we should just start at the beginning. So one of the things you talked about is the attention economy that we live in today. Talk to us about what that means, how it plays a role in real estate, and this world we're living in of constantly trying to vie for everyone's attention. Where does that fit into our real estate world, and what do our realtors need to know about this world we're living in right now?
For sure. I mean, we are living squarely in this attention economy, for better, for worse. There are folks that are probably listening to this and rolling their eyes, and I'm with you. I think it's not for everybody, but I will just say that it's also a huge opportunity. And I don't think anyone can deny that right now success isn't just measured in commission checks or number of deals closed. It's also measured in your ability to capture and hold attention, because that is building your pipeline. And, attention right now equals trust, which equals business. And I have been very vocal that being invisible is now a liability. It used to be like a choice, or you can kind of like be strategically silent, or just kind of be like, being somebody who's very out there isn't for me, which I respect. But we are living squarely in a world where people who are making decisions, especially high consideration decisions like buying or selling a home, they are going online and they are checking kind of like your bona fides there. So I think there's some bonkers stat about it's something about like 75% of people will go check a brand's social channels before they decide to engage with them or like buy something from them, to like see if they're legit. And then you also see that very prominent in the real estate industry. And I'm actually somebody who did that. When I bought my house in Austin, I honed in on a neighborhood I wanted to live in. And then I clicked the geotag, and there was a real estate agent who had created some videos. And she was talking about, I live in this neighborhood. I kind of know the status of every home here. And she was kind of storytelling about the neighborhood, and just like it sparked something for me. I was like, I have conviction that this person knows this neighborhood down to like the house level, and I want to work with them. So that person played the attention game. And I mean, and that was many years ago. Like we've all seen it really ramp now with what people are doing online and on Instagram, all the different platforms. But yes, right now, attention is the name of the game. And real estate agents like can do incredible things in order to fill their business pipeline by playing the game well.
Yeah, no, you really can. It's so important, and I think you mentioned it perfectly. We can't afford to not be doing it in today's day and age. I think consumers are more educated than ever. They are doing more research than ever by going online. I mean, like I couldn't tell you. I think the last time like I went to a restaurant and I didn't check their Instagram to like see what their plates of food looks like. And it sounds like you're not the only one.
No, and I am gonna sound like a Gen Z or something, but I think a lot about it is like people go to check the vibes on things, which is not something you can do in kind of like a 2D world. But when you go like on Instagram to check, like you're looking at the food, you're kind of like getting a sense for the atmosphere. I think you can say the same thing for real estate agents. People are like, let me kind of suss this person out in a
Yeah.
3D world, in a way that you can do now that you really couldn't do in kind of the era of, print ads and grocery store cart advertising. It's a lot different.
Yeah, it's a lot different. It's a lot more accessible. Consumers are actively out there searching and finding this information and using social media as a way to do that. So I think, yeah, I agree with you 100% that it's so important that you're out there. We almost can't afford to do it. And like you said, you don't need to be like, if you're uncomfortable doing it, there's a way that it can fit into your world and make you comfortable that still allows you to have a presence without overwhelming yourself or it taking up too much of your time. What are some examples of ways you've seen really good, strong online presences from realtors? And what are some of the types of content that we should be sharing to social media?
Great question. And I want to caveat that I have extreme empathy for the people that are like, oh my gosh, being online is so cringe and it's like not who I am. I get it. But I will also challenge that and say, most real estate agents, there's something magical about them. They have an incredible personality, a great way of like connecting with people. They're so knowledgeable. So kind of finding the courage to translate that from what you already enchant people with in your real life and putting it online, it's a net positive. So I'll get off my soapbox on that, but I'll just say like getting over the cringe and kind of like letting the ego subside a bit is a great is a great kind of like mental exercise to try and do so that you can do more tactical things. So what I've seen worked is a few things like treating Instagram or LinkedIn like your open house, like is a general great way to like think about it as a mental framework. Show up consistently, make it easy for people to see what you do. I know it could feel cringe, but I'm saying give it a try. What I see people doing that really seems effective is sharing one piece of market commentary a week. Make it short, make it local, show that you know your neighborhood that you work in. Another thing that I love when people do is filming quick, maybe 30-second explainer videos on common client questions. Like, I get asked this, here's my answer. It also allows you to kind of answer that question one time in the hopes that many people will get the answer from there and not have to ask you one on one. Also, filming new listings or homes that you've toured is another great way to create content and you can walk people through. And maybe a buyer or a seller is going to see that and say, like, ooh, let's do a deal. And then I think also if you specialize in a very specific area, go very hard on your local knowledge. Like the story about the agent that I hired when I bought my house. She did just a couple Instagram videos talking about the neighborhood and I was sold. And then that ended up that one Instagram video that she did, like that made her a lot of money because I referred her to more deals. So she made lots and lots of money off of one Instagram post that I saw. So I think there's a lot of lessons in that like something you do one time can have a very long tail. And then also, it's not just about like posting, putting your phone down and walking away. I think you need to engage with your community online just like you would in person. So, replying to comments, kind of being more engaged online than you might expect. It doesn't have to be hours and hours of your day, but I'm just saying like two-way communication when you're doing online marketing is really important.
It is. And I mean, these are people that are already engaging with you, that are finding you, like you said, that have some
Mhm.
interest in this industry and in what you can provide. That's a great option to reach out to them. Just say, hey, notice you were on my page. If you ever need anything,
Mhm.
let's talk. Or like, are you planning to buy or sell anytime soon? Having those conversations, those are like easy leads that are kind of just falling into your lap.
Yeah, for sure. And like if you create interesting content, I do believe that people will find you. You don't have to be chasing virality. Sometimes all it takes is like a niche group of viewers for people to find you. And, 300 views can turn into three conversations, can turn into one closed deal, which can turn into four referrals down the road. So there's a lot of business outcomes that make sense of just kind of extending your marketing beyond a CRM, like considering that your entire online presence is now your part of your listing presentation is how I would like agents to think about it.
That's a really good way to look at it. I think that should absolutely be something that you're showcasing. And like you said, it's like what do consumers want? They want to know that you're an expert. They want to know you're a professional, and they want to know that you're going to do a really good job for them. And I think if you're able to showcase that and that you know what you're talking about, and I mean, I love the idea of tagging the locations you're working at, being in the neighborhood, creating content as you're there, using those tags because people are in the area, that's going to pop up for them, based on your geotag and all of that stuff. That's a great way to kind of ensure your content's going to be popping up. And I mean, this can just be, like you mentioned, these don't have to be extensive or big, long marketing videos. These can be 30-second long things that can bring you, like you said, endless clients, endless dollars made, and endless deals closed. So I think that's really, it's
Mhm.
a great investment. And like you said, something everyone should do. We cannot afford to live in today's day and age and not do it.
Yeah. And I guess I'll tell a story about a friend of mine who's a real estate agent. She lost a deal. She went to a listing presentation, did not get the deal because the folks looked at her online presence versus another agent they were talking to. And that person had a bit of a stronger online presence. They had more Instagram followers. And those sellers equated that to that agents' ability to get more eyeballs and to market better and to have more reach and to ultimately bring more folks into the home. So my friend lost the deal, and it was a huge fire under her after that. It was about a year ago. And after she left that conversation, and she's like, I'm going to teach myself marketing. So she has, in the year since then, just taken baby steps that have really compounded. And now she's making really incredible videos. She has really stepped up her game to the point where I'm saying, like, to her, if you ever like leave real estate, you could now go be like a VP of marketing somewhere, because you have become like a marketing genius based on what I'm seeing. So I will say that it can be a negative if you don't know how to compete against folks that you are competing against. And then, but it is also very attainable to start now and build. So in a year, in 3 months, a year from now, you could be, one of the best marketed agents in your city, in your neighborhood.
And that's good to note that, if you are someone who is not doing this on a regular basis, or as we mentioned, does make you feel uncomfortable or cringe, you can work your way to this. You can learn to grow this muscle. You can, flex it, and it can be developed over time. I think that's something, hopefully if you are in that group where you're like, I don't know about this, I'm not comfortable with it, you can
Yeah.
develop it over time. And I think the key is to just start, right? Like, just get started in it, and then you can learn and grow. As it progresses, you'll become more and more comfortable with it, and it'll become something that you won't even think about anymore.
Yeah. And it'll compound. So you can make a bit of content and see how it does. I mean, it's going to start slow, but just like figure out what people glom onto and then go from there. I read Inman sometimes, and they'll have great marketing kind of like case studies on certain agents who do like a certain niche thing. And some of them are hilarious. Like there's agents that will walk into a house and like their whole shtick online is like talking about all the things that are wrong with the house. I don't recommend that for all people, but like it became kind of a bit of like this agent was known for this, so people would come back and want to see all their videos. And then there's other folks that are like, they go into local businesses and talk about and kind of showcase what makes a neighborhood great and what businesses there that are like, part of the retail community that really uplift the neighborhood. And those are great too. And that kind of variety of content is great to try, and then kind of see what people are into and then go from there. But
Yeah.
just try a few things and see what works and then go from there. You do
Yeah.
not need to be dancing on TikTok. You don't have to be, I see there's folks of like Ryan Serhant he's an ex-actor. He is like born to do this. He has a reality show for a reason. That is not the aspiration. It's whatever feels authentic to you. It's whatever you are known for in real life. How do you kind of bring that online in a way that feels good and attainable and repeatable?
Absolutely. You don't have to be someone that you're not, right? I think consumers in your online audience are going to pick up on genuinity. They're going to pick up on when someone is being their true, authentic self. And that's what's really going to draw those people in. So be yourself, know what you're good at, share your expertise. And that's a really great way to get started on this and begin, getting the word out there to the public. And like you said, that could be the difference between getting the deal or not. You gave some really great examples of that and what we should all be aware of and why it's a must. You got to do it. Get on your social medias.
Yeah. And I think too, like being invisible, it begs more questions than it answers. I think there's a world where people are like, oh, maybe that person's like a part-time agent, or maybe they don't do that many deals, or they don't know that much. That's kind of the world we're at. Like there's a baseline expectation of visibility for folks who work in certain roles. And maybe, this is an annoying downstream effect of all these real estate focused reality shows for folks. But the reality is people expect kind of real estate agents to have a bit of an outgoing persona and to, be able to talk about and show the deals that they've done. So if you aren't doing that, you're falling behind and you're going to probably get leapfrogged over by somebody who's winning this attention game. They're fueling the attention economy by showing up and being more visible.
Yep, definitely. Gotta make it a part of the business strategy. Absolutely. I want to talk about it from the other part of this is from a executive, from a broker perspective, being visible from a management and a leader perspective. And I know we have individuals listening to this who are brokers and who are in that role, talk to us a little bit about what that looks like for that executive level. Where does visibility fit into their role? How can they ensure the people that they're working with and the teams that they're leading, are feeling good and they're showing up with them and for them every day? Tell us your perspective and insights onto that.
For sure. I think executives are expected to be chief storytellers. I mean, there's a huge part of running a business, which is just being a bit of a visionary. It is being somebody who can set the roadmap that other people will walk with you together. So it's very, very important for executives to be visible. I say, like, it's now core work to be visible. I think the era of folks being kind of in a closed door corner office is over. I mean, I'm sure it works for some businesses. I just don't think it works in real estate anymore. There's a base level of expectation of you being out there. And I think sporadic interviews or a single keynote on stage isn't enough anymore. I think there's a real expectation of cadence. People expect regular, visible leadership. And whether it's just internal to an organization, it's, monthly meetings or whatever, it makes sense. But I also think if you're leading an organization that wants to recruit and get more business and build pipelines, being a quote unquote thought leader is a huge, high leverage, low cost way for you to drive your business forward. And a lot of people get to, you know, benefit from a leader taking that role of being chief storyteller and stepping up on their behalf. And I think it also is like you're leading by example, like anything. If a leader is out there showing folks kind of how to set a narrative and how to talk and how to share things that are of value, it's going to inspire other people to do that. And I had done a case study in Inman talking about kind of an example of this gone wrong. For folks that had read about it this summer, Open Door, the leading iBuyer, they had kind of a bit of a retail investor uprising where folks were questioning the competence of their then CEO, a woman named Carrie Wheeler. She had not done any media for like 2.5 years. So despite, and when you're a public company CEO, there's a level of expectation. I mean, that's about as visible of a role as somebody can have. And then you can kind of go a sliding downward scale of folks. If you're not running a public company, your expectations are lower. But when you're running a public company, people expect to hear from you regularly. And she hadn't done any of that. So in the absence of her having any type of visibility, the investment community kind of like made up their own story about her competence and ultimately it ended her tenure running the company. So it's an extreme example, but let's just say it's not unrelated to what can happen to anybody who runs a company. People need to know who you are. And in the absence of having any sense of that, they're going to tell their own story.
It's so true. And I think so much of this also is around creating your own narrative. You know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
allows you to be in the driver's seat. This allows you to be the one controlling what is said and done out there about you. And who doesn't want a CEO that's going to be open and honest and, present? I think having that presence, especially when it comes to what agents want, and as you mentioned, if you are looking to recruit and really grow your team and find good agents, that's what they're wanting. That's what they're out there craving is someone who is going to be around, who's going to show that they're invested in you, who has a strong leadership skills, who's being there every day alongside with you, growing, learning with you, investing that time and being available. And I think that is so much where we see people, who get into these leadership positions, make those mistakes and just, go dark and say, hey, I'm in this role now and you guys got this from here.
Yeah. And I will just say that it can be so easy to be heads down. I get it. Like there's times where I'm like, I don't walk my own walk. I don't, where I'm like, I don't want to be very visible right now. I want to focus on the work. But in this attention economy that only seems to be accelerating, having some level of visibility is core work. And there's a stat that says that basically a brand is about 25% of a company's value. So a lot of that comes down to storytelling. And if you're a real estate agent, you are your own brand. I would possibly argue that your brand is even more about like than 25%. And it's maybe 50%. Your name is your business. So, you know, working on promoting that is core work. But also, what's kind of neat about the attention economy we're in right now, as much as it can feel like it's pressure to be like out there, out there, out there, it's never been easier because the channels that we can use are cheap, easy, and the timelines are short. And
Yeah.
those are things like LinkedIn. And I mean, obviously, this is very specific of like where are your customers, where's your audience. But like if you're an executive, LinkedIn is a great platform, short form video across various platforms, podcasts like this one. You should have people, like knocking on your door, Allison, trying to come on this podcast. That'd be a great
Yes.
one.
Thank
Um,
you.
Commentary on things like Twitter or Threads, and then also conferences. Those panels are a great way to kind of go out there. But I will say, I love conferences, but they're ephemeral. It's like you're on stage and then you're not. So I would say if you're somebody who does speak on conference panels, it's like take that content, the stuff that you're talking about on the panels, and turn it into content for something else that has a longer shelf life, like a video for Instagram or a video for LinkedIn.
I think that goes back to like the genuinity of it all, right? I think people are going to be able to feel that from your leader. And when you're doing that and you're constantly communicating, leaving that door open, being around, showing up every day, I think people are going to be able to see that. They're going to feel good about it. And they're going to know that, you're not just someone who, like you said, is head down or is never around and has no idea and can't relate to anything that you're going through. I think that's going to come across more when you're able to show off your true self and show that you're an expert too. And we expect our agents to be experts. And then, they want a leader and they want someone who they feel is an expert too. So I think, that's something to think about your employees and your agents as, those individuals that are a part of your audience, in addition to clients and everyone that you may be, trying to reach with your other social media strategies.
Yeah, it really does cascade from the top. I've seen brokers who are so good at speaking, and I think it really inspires greatness in the agents that work for them. And then, agents, your ability to be visible is kind of like your proof of value. So being visible kind of signals to the world that like I can get your property seen and I understand how to cut through noise. And right now in the market, with inventory levels being high and things like that, it's never been more important. So attention just done well often equates to better business outcomes. And I think that's what everyone aspires to have.
Yep, I think so too. I think you summed it up perfectly. I think, this was really great in sharing ways that agents could easily go do that and work on your visibility. So important to be out there. Like you said, that's your value proposition. We know consumers are out there searching for this in the ways that we mentioned today. And we want to help you get your next business so you're not losing these listings and making those mistakes that we've seen some others made. So I want to thank you again so much, Cristin, for coming on, joining me today, sharing all of your knowledge. This was amazing, and stay visible, everybody.
Yes, visibility is oxygen in this current economy. So, get after it.
Get after it. And to all of our listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you soon.
Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/The Real View and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.